Otherwise, this is not a performance. I was just being cheeky. Um, so I did not know what I was going to read today, so I asked an AI machine to choose for me. So this is what they chose. Delirium tremens. It's the body's yearning to be sober, the first bead of sweat forming at the temple. It's subtle tremors in the limbs, a forewarning quake even the animals sense and hence the stampede. It's lying restless the way electrocution makes one restless, and hair of the dog won't subdue. It's covering the mouth when the volumes turn to shrill in the third circle of hell. It's gluttony's flame engulfing the skin like parchment when sin is writ upon. It's light splintering behind the eyes. It's fever's encroachment. It's phosphine trickery, prisoner's cinema in a blacked out room and not a sliver of fluorescence. It's cowering beneath sheets praying to God. It's the absence of God. It's the lion's share of disasters. A tree fallen across live wires, magnificent sparks that burn a village to the ground. It's everything that aspires to flickers. It's imagining these catastrophes. Citizens woebegone for the sake of their homes, burnt-edged leaves scattering the ground. It's everyone fallen to their knees, raking their past into charred hands, sorting through all the old feelings that made them happy at last. It's no more to show for it. It's this never happened. Body's betrayal enlisting a mind not intact. It's slowly breaking down, cauterized from years of chronic drinking and pill popping, toppling one's resolve when the bottle's empty. It's shrinking to corners when hallucinogens pull shadows from the walls like demon hieroglyphs come alive. It's marionettes with severed strings, delirium tremens through the flesh all the way through to the toes curled in anguish. Its bones cracking under the weight of pain, the inability to distinguish one fiery pulse from another. It's howling all the same. It's crawling the bed. It's a wrecking crew steel ball swinging. It's disassembling one from the inside out and no doubt about suffering. It's the ravishing one must endure. It's healing. Self-portrait as recurring bird. On any day when a bird appears a mistake in my noon tea, I stir it with my silver spoon, fish out feathers floating on the surface, so surprised the bird ripples, reforms whole, so unfettered by clink clatter silver insists upon porcelain as I swirl round and round, bird after endless bird chasing its tail feathers, which becomes a man spinning like a top on the black face of the sea. I know this man as I've known nights marred by dawn's residuals, as in moonglow unrevealed when day holds deep in its pockets light, where gods weep through tears of laughter at my misfortunes, because I want what's been tarnished, tug memory like wind escorting wayward birds to their boughs. It's fragility that beckons the past, as in I reside in a vicious house of ghosts haunting me to erasure, like cataracts stitching shut the eyes, where blankness forces memory to substitute what becomes lost in the actual world. Window pane streaming with overdue rains, eaves rattling, birds tuck-beaked in their nests, whose songs become rapture. Grieving, yes, is an option, though so is desiring contentment. Like a bird's ruby eye flickering, a kind of wonderment I find when realizing a long-earned dream. It's as if the silver edge of heaven has incubated in the central nervous system, and each day it glimmers is another day waking without sobbing and regretting what the cosmos has made unrequited. Each hour, another recompense. Each hour, a songbird rehearsing its nocturnal overture, wing bent and relishing the promise of an abiding night. I love this one. This is when you've been nosy and you want to write about it. It's called Leitmotif. Across the way, the neighbors again argue the virtues of fidelity and discretion. I've come out into the cold, dark winter, the white elephant smoking a cigarette, leaning against the porch rail, intruding upon their privacy. Such impertinence, I feel like a child disobedient. Without coat or toboggan, a cup of hot water to warm their hands, one talks, the other pretends to see a crack in the sky. Each voice pitches louder, a constant campaign of half-truthing, fictioning, then their voices lowing, their heads craning my direction toward the smoke, the spire lifted in my hand, a dying torch, and me shrinking back as if from a scolding hand. Against my lips, a snifter of cognac might betray how clearly I'm a saboteur of their feuding. A box of Harry London chocolates poised for sampling is a veiled attempt at metaphoring I'm a sweetheart who enjoys a good show. Half Nelson as if by a Mahler symphony. But even Mahler isn't so bullying. The way the air is now a deeper purple, night beaten to a plum as they each refuse to see inside the heart of the matter, which is almost like tossing salt over one's shoulder to preserve some semblance of luck. I'd like to tell them that, if only to conform to the idea of wisdom coming from the mouths of babes, because I do have something to say. How often, I admit, when I do say I'm the pummeled air between my neighbors that bars her from tracing a finger along the crease of his shirt sleeve, or him blurting out the biggest shock of all, that he's fallen out of love and can't continue on this way. And then I have to admit, sometimes words fail, that more and more words are instruments of futility, like trying to conceive that pennies fall from heaven, or when one pulls the beds apart, the other spends the night restless on the couch because they each possess a godlike wrath, a stubbornness that keeps a deer stationary in the wake of oncoming traffic. My neighbors can't hear themselves out to hear the imminent crash. They find a sort of peace from knowing one will walk away with blood on their hands. That's how they know they've won, and one day will tell their children how they left the other in a downward spiral, not able to pick their battered body up off the ground. And this, they will say, is how to prove resilience, or worse, that they're not one to be trifled with. If you were here, you would know all that I say is true, because you too have tried to settle in for the night, but are called back again and again by voices across the way rising like the resurrection. It becomes news to you the same way senseless tragedies encourage pillow talk or campfire stories, gossip at the water cooler while the boss is in the boardroom. You hear this news the same way you hear a turkey buzzard lifting up heavily from a tree branch and the leaves hitting the roof of the car below like drum taps. You hear it like rain when there is no rain and you so badly desire it because you've never seen the earth so parched, or anything for that matter, fighting the good fight to survive and losing so terribly. And the last one is another. I think I know what the AI was doing when they chose these poems. This is, thank you all so much. This is Cracking Lobster. Why would anyone be the last couple lingering in the corner of a bar, swirling the last sip of wine, the last hint of crimson that's barely drinkable, when servers are sweeping their sections, refilling condiments, and the restaurant's closed, unless their hearts brim with the common minutiae of youth, or their lovers cheating on their spouses, placing a chin on the other's shoulder the way servers know married couples never do in restaurants, not even on celebratory occasions. An anniversary dinner is sufficient if a bottle of wine is shared throughout the meal. A bottle turned upside down in a wine bucket is a makeshift hourglass when it's time to leave, to bring the check and dessert to go, as they need to relieve the babysitter. This is what you learn from married couples while cracking lobster, who ask if you attend the local university, if this is just part-time work to give you a sense of responsibility. You remove the meat from the claws and tail and knuckles, then rake the joints to the edge of the tray. Stuff the tail shell into the carcass, presenting the meat, the generous dish of clarified butter still steaming. You enjoy cracking lobster, especially for these moments, though you'd rather loosen your tie, fold your apron, and join coworkers for a beer on the patio because it's what you do in the service industry. Sit around the table just sprayed free of muck stuck between the table slats and laugh remembering how you slipped carrying drinks but managed not to spill a drop. You're hailed a super server, a model employee, a person of interest should a lawyer arrive subpoena in hand for you to testify because you've witnessed a couple coupling at the bar who shouldn't have, and now it's confirmed. You think, who is this person who's called you to testify? Perhaps a woman you waited on once, who sat alone at a small table for two, in full view of the bar, watching them. He brushes his nose against her cheek. She darts a tongue at his earlobe. You're cracking her lobster as she sits staring, as if each second ticking by is another room cordoned off in her heart. You struggle removing the meat, the carapace having grown so hard you have to hack it apart, ripping and plying flesh from the walls. You know so much will remain glued inside the claws and hope she doesn't mind. You ask if she'd like to save tamale leaking from the body, but she's no longer a woman indulging delicacies, you presume, sensing how she seems to be rinsed of a former sweetness evident in how frown lines crowd her eyes and mouth, what little lasted of youthfulness vanishing when she tells you, no, take the body away. So you do, placing it with the rest of the broken parts you've collected, leaving a mound of tattered meat she begins to eat slowly before you've even packed up the serving stand and hoisted the chair on your shoulder. You see her one last time while you're at the tank struggling so terribly with the lobster you have to snare it with your bare hands. She passes by, not making eye contact, but watches you grab it by the abdomen to calm its thrashing. Maybe she turned to witness you walk it back to the kitchen, to its death. Though it's likely she left needing no confirmation, having already known everything she suspected. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jo. I'm Chinese Australian. I'm not sure if I lead with that because it's me or if I notice it's the first thing someone notices about me. I love peanut butter banana toast. Yes, thank you. Thick socks in winter, although Mumbai's winter is different, so... Oh, where was I? I got distracted by Mumbai. Thick socks in winter. Oh, it was. Thick socks in winter. I'm a lactose intolerant. In denial. Maybe because I'm so used to wanting things I can't have. I hate wet door handles. Think Crocs look like jelly beans mistaken for appropriate footwear. And sometimes my brain is a 2-year-old. Swinging from the monkey bars, clambering up slides while I'm exhausted on the side with no fucking idea of how to parent. I love dancing, but life has a beat. And when my steps forget what came before, it doesn't bother to look back and check on me, so fuck it, I'll make my own choreography, and I know what being assertive looks like. But fear tells me it's marketing to be disliked, never mentions people will never watch my ads anyway. I am so good at remembering names and faces. Maybe because I care more about those connections than the one inside myself. A rolling pin of pastry flattened out so everyone can take a bite. So take a bite, forgetting it only matters I know life is sweeter with me in it. I find it easy to accept praise, but hard to digest it. Maybe that's why most of this poem hinges on my faults. How my brain filters each achievement into could be better, doesn't tell me what better looks like, so I kick myself and crawl my bruises necessary. No one tells me shit self-talk tries to play friends, then betrays you the first chance they see your success. But despite all this, I can say, each new year is my favorite, because I know more of who this voice of this body belongs to, knows what it sounds like when I'm really singing. I have patience that spills across landscapes, because others gave me time to grow my own roots, knew the mistakes planted beneath my feet, but they never let me miss out on this sunlight. The only thing I know for sure is that nothing in this life is certain. My compliments sometimes still come out sarcastic. I'm learning the tones like musical keys to the right words. I'm learning what forgiveness feels like on my tongue. My life is a series of misplaced metaphors. Sentences ending in question marks, littered with commas, makes a story stop and start in all the wrong places. But isn't that just life? A journey of shit punctuation, but my story still moves forward. I had all this bitterness for my insecurities, and now they're mad I don't have a place to stay. I'm done of treading lightly on floorboards, scared to await criticism. I am done of being afraid of putting my full body weight into my decisions. I'm walking with thunder, breaking floorboards, diving into the deep end of the pool and trusting my lungs can expand enough to lift me to the surface. There are not enough hours to spend worrying about minutia. There are not enough hours to please strangers when I barely tell my friends and family I love them. There is only so much room in this life, so I will live in it fully. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jo Yang from Australia. I love spoken word because in roughly 2 to 3 minutes, you know more about me than I could possibly say in an meeting you in the elevator or... So I love that about poetry and about the diversity of experience. And I'm not sure, but I am sure. We're all humans, so there are parts of that poem that you can resonate with, and that's what I love about it, is that we can come from different upbringings and completely different environments, but poetry brings us together. And I feel the love in the room. I've been asked questions about what I write my poetry about, and it is mainly about identity, something that I am still trying to go through myself and understand what's going on in this head of mine. A lot of it is also to do with assimilation and my upbringing as a Chinese Australian person, my appearances being very different from the place that I was raised, and that experience of assimilation. So this next poem is a poem for my mum, but not in the one that you might expect. It is called I Wished You Were More White. And what I realized reflecting, because poetry has been this outlet for me to think back to the times when I didn't give myself the space to reflect. And that was around from the age of 5 to 15. And I realized that my assimilation was not just upon myself, but I wanted the people around me to assimilate just as I did. So this poem is an apology to my mum and a self-reflection of how far I have grown since the times at which I thought this. And if you want to close your eyes, I would invite you to do so and feel that sort of introspection that I felt when I was writing this. I wished you were more white. I was embarrassed at how you'd say with a timid shake of the head, my English is not very good, cementing a barrier between you and the world. I wish you assimilated your golden wisdom, jade smile. I wish you packaged and hid your cultural feast into takeaway boxes, consumed by white people in fun-sized relatable bites. I wished you were social, using you as an appetizer in making me look normal to my white friends, showing you off to everyone to prove I'm just like everyone else, parade you around leash in hand and say, my mum understands slang, knows what a snag is, which is a sausage in Australia, understands sarcastic jokes, I hated how people thought you were stupid. When you didn't understand their thick Australian accent, you'd nod and smile, let them tattoo thick assumptions onto your skin. I did so much to fit in. Melted down my identity to fit Western-shaped molds, proud to be whitewashed, hoping you'd be rinsed down too. In that time, my bruises tender, soul bitter. In that time, I wished for a new mum. One I could decorate with fun features, mix and match accessories until you were everything but yourself, but all you did was love me whole. Paint stories with your dialect from brush to paper, memories connecting dots between us and our ancestry. You learned how to balance east and west with no guidebook, with only one wish, for me to never taste a drop of pain like you did, the whole bucket. Thank you. Okay. I've been asked also this question, and it's, when I write poetry and when I perform spoken word, do I need to write themes that are serious and emotionally charged and really close to my heart? And I would say yes to the last one, close to your heart. I think that's very important. But the themes and the tone of your poetry is very versatile. And in spoken word and slam poetry, you may see a specific emotion, and those are all valid. They're really powerful and impactful, but there is no set thing that you need to do. So spoken word slam poetry can be whatever you want it to be. And I wrote a poem about an uncle sneeze. It's a dad sneeze. Okay, so I have a head mic, so I realise I can't do this too loud, but you're walking down the street and you're just walking and you're enjoying life and you think life's great. And then suddenly you hear this, ha! And you look around and there's just this dad who's just sneezed and then is drinking a coffee and acts like nothing happened, but you feel like your whole heart has disseminated, right? So I went back to China this year after 7 years. And this experience was so nostalgic. Bless you! Oh! Well. It sounded just like that, but louder. Miles, you're not quite there yet. When I was in China, I was surrounded by the dad sneeze, by the uncle sneeze, and I felt scared, but I also felt heavily nostalgic for this environment. And I thought, what better way to celebrate this half fear, half nostalgia than through a poem? So this is my ode to an uncle sneeze. Let me see. There we go. Okay. An uncle sneeze holds 5 times the engine power of a Rolls Royce and is how gunpowder was invented back in the day. Uncle sneezes do not say please and thank you. Thinks you should have stronger boundaries. Uncle sneezes do not check for survivors. They are what created the term near-death experience. And if caught in the crossfire, hold our breaths hostage and remind our hearts how good it feels when it's beating. Uncle's lungs hold resonance opera singers' envy. Uncle sneezes distort physics. Its echoes heard from nearby continents. Children woken at midnight as his sneezes welcome his morning. Uncle sneezes shake the earth's skeleton and dislocates mountains from their peak, makes thunder shuffle into a corner and weep for forgiveness, embarrassed how they thought they could compete. Uncle sneezes continue to be studied in labs. So far, the following are known. 1, they are easy to locate, but hard to predict. 2, cold sweat is a common symptom of anyone 5 meters surrounding. Partial deafness is inevitable. 3, it is unsure at what point in an uncle's lifespan that sneeze develops. Usually it's reported to have just appeared. Though it is strange that despite the injuries and absolute panic, at what point our eardrums have synchronized to the tempo of their sneeze, at what point it changes from firecracker to lullaby, at what point it starts to feel like home, the pain is nothing. to the strange love and comfort that is an uncle's sneeze. Thank you. So this next poem is a big shout out to my ladies in this audience, specifically for the fact that, I mean, everyone has experienced the pressure of looking a certain way. I have to admit the society is through a patriarchal lens. So a lot of the standards of what we see as beautiful, as what we see as valuable, are out of our control. And this poem actually originated because I was just scrolling through Instagram, as you do, and someone had entered my feed. I think the algorithms are doing something right? Because she popped up on my feed, and she is an Instagrammer who is East Asian. And her whole premise and her message is that she is empowering Asian girls to be proud of their flat-chestedness. Okay, so very specific. She has all of these things in her posts that when I started looking at, I went, oh my God, I did that too. And when I felt that, I had forgotten that it was years and years and years ago. And when I finally saw this post, I went, holy crap, I forgot I did that, and I want to write a poem about it, as you do. And it really is an ode to all my ladies out there, or anyone really, but specifically ladies, just for whatever you have experienced, it traverses the flat-chestedness to other parts of your body. This is a big shout-out of love to feel just that it's a body part. It really is. Like our elbow could be like, whoa, right? Like, but it's just been selected randomly, and or maybe not randomly, right? So let me find it for you all. The title is called Itty Bitty Titty Committee. And I swear, I haven't counted, but I say the word fuck maybe 20 times. So apologies in advance if you don't like swearing. You have no escape. There is an exit, but hopefully you don't, because the message is important. Itty Bitty Titty Committee. Fuck expectations that bodies can be measured on a scale of normal. Fuck the insecurities passed over generations, aunties, mums who cared more that my chest would grow out than not scraping my heart when I fell. Fuck labeling women as flat boards, as if our boobs are for you to walk over. Fuck the tissue boxes massacred, layer after layer under shirts, filling in where the woman in me felt empty. Fuck buying a bra with hopes I'll grow into them. Fuck buying a bra with my mum and her hoping I'll grow into them. Fuck looking into cleavages and seeing competition. Fuck seeing bodies through Western eyes. Technically, in the East, I'm the majority, but here I'm the minority. Fuck bra letter grading, the only exams I ever wanted to fail. Fuck padding, they belong on elbows and knees. Fuck massaging armpits in a clockwise direction because YouTube told me they'd grow. Fuck all the times I spent birthday wishes on boob jobs. Fuck all the time I spent birthday wishes on boob jobs. Fuck how fill your cup is not just about life satisfaction. Fuck feeling like an imposter in the bra. Fuck the fingers crossed hoping puberty was just on holiday. Fuck it. Boobs are boobs. Who the fuck cares what they're up to? Thank you. And this last poem, I'm an educator, I'm a high school teacher. I like to bring this out many times, this poem, because I believe in the message so wholeheartedly, and I hope as many people can hear it as much as possible. I find issues in the education system, and I see it as a very archaic system that is not completely fitting the needs of what we need to this today. And so I don't really need to explain it. I think it has its message within it. It's called A Broken System. When I left school at the age of 18, I knew more about the curriculum than I knew about myself. Led by perfectionism and the fragrance of an A, I was swept up in its promise that I would be an adult when I left. But this industrialist model is numbed efficiency. We're working in factories, had our activities broken up by bells. I was lulled into the routine of rote memorization. So as I walk into a job interview, they ask, what are your strengths? And I say, I can recite the first 13 numbers of pi. Education feels misunderstood. School tells us that all the answers to our questions can be found in the back of a textbook, but to save our burning questions for after class. And it seems ironic that at 18, I couldn't finish an essay on time, equated poetry to old white men, couldn't find the right rhymes, couldn't feel the music underneath, so naturally, I became a teacher. I realized unsustainable in its existence, where we teach through standardization, trying to fit diamonds into square blocks, where we work against a system, shepherding students like cattle, some sprinting to keep up and others slowing down with a system that decided mastery of knowledge is overrated and to move on to walking when we haven't even learnt how to crawl. It seems school is indoctrination, where knowledge is standardized regurgitation, and sure, we have creativity, but under the chains of a high school degree. You see, our goal should not be to make conformists, but creators, fueled by critical thinking, lateral thinkers, so that all the misfits, outcasts who didn't fit into the mold, the system should see your unrestricted potential, that difference means brilliance, and that, the education. Thank you.
Golden boy. Almost afraid I am in the annals of history to speak, and by speaking be seen by man or God. Such then debt in light be paid atop the Manitoban Parliament building in Winnipeg. What a beacon to dollars, food, or God does shine. I hallow starvation, this nation, a notion beneath the body, hollowing its stomach to emptiness, and in breath the river empties. Whoso spoke the craft borne along long echo and echelon, grains of light and space, we with one another wait the soul, not the spirit. Breathe through, spirited, went or wend, why true we've woven a dozen attempts, these tents pitched on the depth be made, biped by pan may perch atop a temple pool, proven now, proven these riches of wheat and cherries and prunes, and what washes over woven ocean frayed I am most, sir, desired. Sired in wind, seared and warned, once in wild Umiak sworn. We parley to mend, be conned, be bent, come now, called to document your meant intent, your indented mind, and hollow star your weight in eons. There, in prayer, money, moreover you owe, and over time God spends the spent river melted into summer, sound out the window, sound out the spender. Where does the river road end? In what language can prayer or commerce be offered? Ender of senses, pensive atop plural spires, be spoken or mended, broken and meant for splendor, my mentor. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to read a poem now that is called Ioannis Ritsos. Ioannis Ritsos, the great 20th century Greek poet and supporter of Palestinian liberation and friend to Mahmoud Darwish, Palestinian poet. And the epigraph of this poem is from Darwish. Athens was welcoming to those who had come from the sea. When the PLO left Lebanon in 1982, their first port of arrival was Athens. And Yanis Ritsos went down to the harbor to meet Darwish and the Palestinian leadership. Yanis, you held him in the glare of the diamonded sea, unteaching him his practical mantra of liberation, maybe seeing in him a son to take care of you in your loneliness. Loneliness varnished by your detention in the house made of flower stems that thrust through the rocks in the prison yard, its roof made of unscannable lines of rain. You revealed to him the sound of the rusty-hinged door, how it would swing sadly open and reveal no homeland beyond it all. He came from the sea, dragging his anklets of keys. Did you teach him then how the old locks and houses of his hometown were already all broken? Yanis, in the end, he rinsed the last of the coast road's dust from his body after a lifetime of pressing his language into lines of poetry and prayer and prestidigitation, tired of praising mosques in which he could not pray. And the same morning that I was forbidden by the guard to pray at the Mezquita of Cordoba, Darwish woke up in Houston, Texas, and went to a mall food court to meet, for the first and last time in this life, his translator. The words they spoke to one another that morning were the same as those I saw in stone fragments on the door of the floor of the archaeological dig at Medina da Sahra, the ruined capital of the West, looking east toward the cities left behind. That city had remained buried in a field outside Cordoba for 1,000 years, and the palace and throne room had been torn apart, the rubble of the mosaics now being painstakingly reassembled piece by piece, unlike the villages of Palestine disassembled down to stone. Yanis, what did you say to him that blue afternoon when the steel canoe landed and he arrived in another place that would be home and not home? In Cordoba, meanwhile, the story of his death flashed across the morning news, scrolling across the bottom of the screen from clay to dust. But let's let the sea have the last word. The sea he crossed to come to you, or the one that sparkled off the coast of Chile when he in Neruda's house remembered you. Or the sea that rained lightly down as the poet and his translator huddled together over cheap food court coffee to converse in a shopping mall in Texas, though it could have been Athens or Palestine or Neruda's house, at least as good as any mosque in the world, so long as there was coffee and poetry and the sound of rain. Rain in the shape of the river, rain in the shape of a broken lock, rain in the shape of long since written verses, while the translator of lost homelands makes from the sound of butterfly wings rain in the shape of the dark furnace of days. Thank you. I think I have time for one more poem. So I think it's going to be dealer's choice. Should we do sex or death? Sex. Okay, sex. Oh, she said both. Okay. I can do both, actually. Sex and death. They do go together sometimes. "34. This is a poem called Sacred Buffalo. In the morning, I'm supposed to sit with the other writers, but instead, I beeline it to the two older women sitting at the other end of the table. They have come for the moose tanning workshop. They tell me that the Tunnel Road Mountain's true name among indigenous people is the Sacred Buffalo Guardian. When people ask me where I am from, normally I say I am from Buffalo, New York, but that is not strictly true. From when I was 9 until I was 18, we lived in a town called Amherst, a suburb of Buffalo named for Lord Amherst. No one really knows where Buffalo got its name. And 9 years hardly qualifies you to be from a place, does it? In the end, I went home less and less and never stopped feeling like it was home, even though my parents moved to a house in which I had never lived, which is why eventually I started to tell people I am not from anywhere. I have no home. Now I'm walking up Sacred Buffalo, even though it is raining and cold, and I had a late start, and I can only make it to the Vista Point 2/3 of the way to the peak before I have to turn back and head down. I stopped to take pictures, the Rocky Mountains soaring. I remember them from my childhood, and I remember them from 2 years ago when I was here and stopped at the same vista to take pictures to send to my mother. The mountain was named for the shape its crest makes when seen from across the valley, the women tell me. They warn me that when one leaves Banff, one must take care to take one's soul with you because it will want to stay. One theory for where Buffalo, New York got its name is that the French, upon viewing the river that runs through it, called it Beau Fleuve, beautiful river. These days, rather than thinking of my mother as dead, I think of her soul too flowing, lingering somewhere, just not in a body anymore. Not in Buffalo anymore, but sacred Buffalo. When I went back to my mother's funeral, we went out to a bar in the hotel in the city of Buffalo called the Lord Amherst, where, while my cousin and a friend waited for me, I went to the bathroom with a man in a Buffalo Bills jersey who had been making eyes at me all night and had quick 5-minute sex. He came in my mouth, I came in my hand. Forgive me. It is not the story you were expecting. But while the planet beneath me was dismantling itself into nothing, it was the only way I could think of to stay alive in my body. The only way I knew how to get past the god-awful gates of heaven.
I will speak now, and you, for you listen. I will speak my stories, older than time itself, in the voices of my grandmothers and grandfathers, yet I will speak in your words, speak in your language. Are you listening? You see, the blood of my mother and all those mothers before her run strong inside of me. The tears that fell from my father's eyes, all those fathers before him still fall from my eyes. For I am a poem, and I am a story. I'm my grandmothers raising children in a country that did not even see them as human. I'm my grandfather's calloused hands and bent backs working for men that did not even see them as human. I'm my uncle's voices raised. I'm my auntie's fists raised. I'm the story that seeps up through the soles of my feet, bursting out through my tongue, and it swims on the rays of the sun. You see, I am raised. And I'm a story still yet to be told. From the tongues of my children and all those that follow, from the first sunrise to that first sunrise again, I am raised. For I am Gomeroi. I am Banjalang. I am Gumbaynggirr. I am Anawan. I am 600 nations strong, and from this time on, I will tell my story, just as you have told yours. Over and over, I have heard it. I've heard it from newspapers and television sets. I've heard it from school teachers and university lecturers. I've heard it from newspapers and history books or his storybooks. But I will speak now. I will speak now, and you will listen. Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me come and sit here. I'm really excited to share some of my words with you. I'm also a bit dry, so excuse me while I pour some water. Shout out to Lit Live, all their sponsors, and everybody that's enabled us and given me the chance to come here. Big love to my mate Joe over there, Joe Yang. Second time she's made me cry today on her birthday. Happy birthday, Joe. That's just me trying to take a bit of spotlight off, but no, love you, Joe. This next one here that I want to share was written about a festival I went to in Australia that was, let's just say, a little bit more vanilla than Mumbai Lip Fest. It's got multi-grained sourdough, roasted pumpkin topped in seed soaked in honey and chili, coffee black and bitter like I at times. This juice as sweet as her I miss. Famous faces sit within arm's reach with thick black-framed glasses, linen clothing, and sideways glances that asks, "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" Well, we've always been here. Just like Auntie, who sits just across the road. She's draped in black tracksuit stitched with sadness and wanting. She peers through bay windows at pumpkin lattes and festival programs. Her skin as black as coffee, eyes twice as bitter. To her, I look much the same as them. Yet through thick, black-framed glasses, it is not just her, but I that does not belong here. I'm a picture frame sitting slightly sideways, begging to be straightened. A doorway left ajar. A dripping tap, a mere inconvenience. Not even a visitor, an outsider, an intruder, interrupting intermittent interludes of cups of coffee, baked eggs, and pomegranate seeds. We catch each other's eye, old Auntie and I. A simple nod is all it takes. Later they'll come and acknowledge country, and they will pay their respects to our elders, past, present, and sometimes emerging. And then they will walk past Auntie sitting just across the road as she shakes her cup. And we wait for change. Thank you. I'm going to do one called What Day Is It Again? People ask me why I read my poetry from notepads and the screens of my phones. They say the good ones don't need to do it, they can do it alone, but they don't know that at least 6 times a day I ask, what day is it? My cousin joked that at 15 years old, when I lost my short-term memory, that I'd remember everything eventually. Now, I'm not sure if that's the way it's meant to be, because essentially I've been mentally examined by more head doctors than any child should have ever had to be sent to see. See, I lost my memory when I lost my friend on a highway in the middle of nowhere. It was the 4th of August, 1994. It was a Thursday. What day is it again? See, he just laid there. We were thrown from that car, broken, and I was awoken, and he stared right through my very soul. I remember his eyes wide open. I can remember how he wouldn't answer when I asked, hoping he was okay. I can Remember looking up and seeing that helicopter surrounded by more stars than anyone could ever count. What day is it again? They told me my heart stopped 6 times once they got me to the operating table, once they took me from my friend. They said with stitches and staples my body would eventually mend, but nobody could tell me then, and still nobody could tell me when I'll ever forget what it felt like picking bits of road out of the back of my head. Alone in another country in that hospital bed, they said, you should buy a lotto ticket. You're lucky you're not dead, as if I need another fucking reminder. So as much as I wish I could remember my poems off by heart, sometimes, just sometimes, I wish I could forget more than just what day it is. Also, if there's a timekeeper somewhere, let me know, because I just ramble on like a... One more, last one? Last one? Okay. Won't do that one then. We'll do this one. If I can find out how to open this book. There we go. This one here. Never done it before. So we'll see how it goes. I've been on the road since... I've had probably a week in total at home since July. So this one's called Boarding Now. Boarding now, but not for me. It seems forever since I saw her. And freshwater country, black soil plains, back straight, hard back seats holding me in line again, stale air, cold at least. Airports and air conditioners condition us to feel homesick, stuck at the same time as going. Passers-by hold happy conversations and happy faces and of just started journeys, but I wait. Babies cry in the distance, sobs drowned out by announcings of other wheres and other whens. Smells seep through the terminal gates. They remind me of last night's late-night street stalls and cab rides through crowded city streets. They smell familiar and foreign. They smell like here and home. Somewhere inside me, I know that home is sick for me now. But they've tried to convince me that it's the other way around. Headphones on. I must have missed it. A tap on my shoulder, and she points to the screen. Boarding now.